guys, it's Faye from Solar Flow, and I am back with an all new video. Today's topic is a mini behind the veil energy read into the actor Brandon Lee, who was the son of martial arts actor Bruce Lee. And if you enjoy my soul and spiritual content, you will definitely love this one. So if this sounds good to you, please stick around, and if not, I will catch you at another video. Now, before we dive in, I'm going to share just a tiny bit of three-dimensional information into who Brandon Lee was. This is for a number of reasons. First and foremost, he was unalived over 30 years ago. At the time of his crossing over, he was not what we would consider to be like an A-list celebrity. So this is somebody that crossed over 30 years ago, not an A-list celebrity. I think the only reason his crossing over had generated so much buzz was due to the fact that he was the son of Bruce Lee, and they had both crossed over at relatively young ages. So here we go, some three-dimensional information into who Brandon Lee was. Brandon Bruce Lee, born on February 1st, 1965, and crossed over on March 31st, 1993, was an American actor. He established himself as a rising action star in the early 1990s, and he landed his breakthrough role in the supernatural superhero film, The Crow. However, his career and life was cut short by his accidental unaliving on set when a firearm had malfunctioned. So let's explore what Brandon's energy wanted to share with me. Brandon Lee is long gone from the earth plane. And there is barely any trace of his energetic expression left behind. Now, in case you're wondering, how am I coming to this assessment that he's long gone from the earth plane and there's barely any trace of his energetic expression? It's because as an energy reader, I can assess, let's say, the level of soul vibrancy that a person has. And that will give me an indication whether they're still alive and on the earth plane, or whether they have crossed over, their body has crossed over, and their soul lives on in another location. And the way in which I'm able to ascertain that is by looking into the vibrancy, one could say, or the output of their soul's expression. And to do that, I'm going to compare it to the light of a candle or a torch. So think about the light of a torch. It's very bright. So if you were, for example, walking through a cave that was long and dark, even if it was straight, long before you would get to the other side, where maybe a friend was waiting for you, they would be able to see the light of the torch because the expansion of the light that it produced is so much bigger, brighter, and greater. So that would be an example of a soul that is on this side, where it's not just their soul, but it's also their body. But now think about the light that a single candle would emit. It still emits light, but it's a much softer, much smaller expression of the light. And again, if you were walking through that cave and you had a friend on the other side, you would have to be a lot further along in that cave before they would be able to see the light, because it's so much smaller. So this is one of the ways in which I can establish and ascertain, first and foremost, where are they? Are they alive? Are they here? Are they on the earth plane? Have they crossed over, and are they on the other side? But in addition to that, how am I able to ascertain that there is barely any trace of his energetic expression left behind? Now, to do that, I'm still going to be using the example of candles. But I'm going to say that the expression of what is left behind on an energetic level would be akin to like a single birthday candle. So it's not like a regular candle. It's not like the pillar candle that you might have like on your coffee table. It's one single solo birthday candle. So the expression of the light is even more minuscule than the light of a single solo candle. But now I want you to imagine, for example, that there's 100 candles, birthday candles on a birthday cake. And those 100 candles, even if they're birthday candles, the accumulation of so many of them in one location, as in this case, a birthday cake, even though they're birthday candles, it's still going to generate a lot of light and a lot of expression. Now, imagine, if you will, those 100 candles can either reflect that that one person was turning 100 years old in this lifetime, but it could also be divvied up, and it could be a reflection of the fact that that soul had had 100 incarnations on the earth plane. So still, the sum accumulation of those 100 candles, instead of it being on a birthday cake, would be on the energetic earth plane. So if somebody had many incarnations here, there would be more soul's essence and vibration left behind, just like 100 candles on a cake would create a larger impression. But now imagine the light of one birthday candle. It's like a whisper. It's a hint. It's a barely even there. Because that's the way Brandon's energy had come in. It was barely a trace of his energetic expression left behind. As if there was just one, maybe a couple of single-use birthday candles spread out over thousands of years. Barely energetic trace left behind. And this is due to the fact that Brandon Lee, or who his soul was in his most recent incarnation, has not had many incarnations here on the earth plane. And that's why there's barely energetic expression of him. Again, the 100 birthday candles on one cake would produce a lot of light. But even those same 100 candles spread out over time, it's the accumulation of hundreds of them that would still leave behind more of a soul's essence. Not for Brandon Lee, because he has not had many incarnations here. Now, this is not to say that he is a so-called young soul, right? We have old souls and we have younger souls. It's not because he's a young soul, no. It's just that he has not had many lifetimes here on the earth plane, and his soul is more akin to one of a nomad, as in his soul likes to wander. So essentially, he likes to pop into the earth plane every once in a while. He likes to see how humanity is doing before he pops back out to go on to do other things in other places. His soul doesn't come here all that often. That's why there's barely any energetic trace of him left behind. And to really drive this point home, it was shown to me that his last lifetime here on the earth plane was back during the times of ancient China. Like, what is it, 2,000 years ago, 1,500 years ago? That's literally the last time his soul has been here on the earth plane. There was like ancient China, and then there was like 1963 to like 1993. So this kind of got me thinking, This is a nomadic soul that likes to wander. He doesn't come to the earth plane all that often. So let's say there's a creation of karmic shit, and one of the souls is not here to work through the creation of karmic shit because they're a nomad. How exactly does that work? And in case you were wondering too, don't worry, I gotcha. Now, also in case you're newer to these concepts, such as karmic shit, it's essentially the accumulation of lifetimes and actions and decisions that are played out between two souls. And it could be over one lifetime, or it could be over many different lifetimes. But the universe is always seeking balance naturally. And all souls are naturally seeking balance as well. So let's say you can have an accumulation of positive karmic shit. And that's where one would be collecting the blessings of things that have happened between themselves and other souls over lifetimes. So it's kind of like, imagine going to an ATM and sticking your card in and realizing you have like $2,000 more than you thought you had. It's unexpected. It's wonderful. It's a blessing. That's kind of the accumulation of positive karmic shit. It's like a surprise. It's out of nowhere. It's a blessing. It's a wonderful thing that we get to collect when we slide our ATM card into. But not all karmic shit is positive. There can also be an accumulation of so-called negative or not such positive karmic shit. And that could be where there is more turmoil, more struggles between souls. That could have include one person robbing from another person, one person hurting another person, one person unaliving another person. So therefore, these souls have more dense, not such positive karmic shit to work through, so that the souls can find balance between the two of them. Because the universe seeks balance, and so do all of the souls that reside here seek balance. One of the ways we get to create that balance is by incarnating back onto the earth plane with other souls that we've been here with before, and we get to work through that. And if you want to learn more about this, I've actually, I have a freestanding video on souls and soul contracts and soul groups, which is in the description box down below. So if all of this is new to you and you want to learn more about it, check out that video. You will come to understand on a much deeper level the way in which souls come to the earth plane to work through our karmic shit. So let's say in a case where there's karma created between two souls, but one of those souls isn't here to work through the karmic shit with the other soul. Because here we have a case of a soul who in this most recent incarnation went by the name Brandon Lee. And during his time here on the earth plane, due to a firearm malfunction on the set of a movie that he was filming, was unalived. So what happens? He's a nomad. Does that then mean that the soul of the person that was, responsible for this firearm malfunction, how do they get to work through the karmic shit that was created with the Brandon Lee's soul if Brandon Lee isn't even here to work through it? So this is wild what was shown to me. That if one of those souls is not here to work through the karmic shit with the other, it would be akin to two people that are involved in some sort of an incident together, but where one chooses not to press charges against the other one. So I'm going to give you two examples. Let's say, because one's a little bit more dramatic than the other one, but they're both going to kind of like do the job nicely. So let's say two people are involved in an altercation on the street. They're fighting about political candidates. And one punches the other one out. He gets so enraged and the police are called, but they're really good buddies for the most part. And the one that was punched says, I don't want to press charges. He's really my friend. I should have known better than to push the point. I needled him. I really, really needled him, but he's really a good guy. I don't want to press charges. Now, the next example is going to be a little bit more dramatic, because sometimes dramatic examples really do drive that point home just a little bit more beautifully, albeit a little bit more dramatically. So let's say there's a couple, and this couple, there is domestic abuse. So there's an abuser or the perpetrator, and then there's the partner that's the victim. Now let's say on one particular night, this abuser really is over the top. And it's not just mental or emotional abuse. It's maybe not just, slapping her around. Not that I'm advocating that. I'm not really saying it's just. But I'm saying on this one particular night, it goes beyond that, where there's full-on physical violence in the home. And the victim of the abuse calls the police because she just wants to get them broken apart. She wants to get him out of the house because he has scared her. He's really, really hurt her. So she calls the police. But then thereafter, she decides she doesn't want to press charges against him. Because free will really does reign supreme. So she's exercising her free will in saying she didn't want to press charges against him. So then, on a strictly three-dimensional level, what does that mean for justice being served, one could say? Does that mean because she refuses to press charges against him, in the three-dimensional earth plane, she doesn't get her justice? She doesn't get, him being recognized as an abuser? Does it mean that he's not gonna serve time or be held responsible for what he did to her? No. Because I remind you, earth and souls are always seeking balance. But on the other side, there's no such concept of time. 1 second, 1 year, 10,000 years, on the other side, it all feels the same. So when we are creating our lifetimes prior to being incarnated, it's not like we got to work through this karmic shit now. It's been too long. No, it's like, all right, do we want to do this dance again in this lifetime? Or should we maybe push it off and we'll do it in another cup? The last lifetime I had, it was a little gnarly. I want to have an easier one. I don't want to work through this karmic shit now. It doesn't mean that the justice won't be served. It just means maybe not right now. This is also going to bring into this concept called the postman rings twice, which is over time, people will really show you who they are. Especially if when you first you first meet them, you maybe are seduced by the facade of who they are pretending to be. Maybe they're like love bombing you. Over time, the facade starts to wear a little thin and you can really see who they are. And even if you don't see the justice being served in your time together with them, the postman rings twice. And justice will be served either in a future subsequent relationship that soul is going to have in the same lifetime or in a future lifetime. Now you may be wondering, what does this have to do with Brandon Lee? This is the same concept of the souls don't have any attachment to time, because time as we know it, we only know it on the three-dimensional earth plane. It's not like that on the other side. So first and foremost, Brandon Lee's soul is not like keeping track. He's not like tapping his metaphorical watch and he's like, oh, we got some karmic shit that we got to work through. First and foremost, it's like, no, there's time. We have all the time in the world. There's no rush. There's no sense of urgency. So it's not like we got to do this in the next follow-up lifetime or it won't get done. No, it'll happen when it happens, because balance, homeostasis, always comes to be on an energetic playing field. So it'll happen when it happens. But here's another interesting thing that was shown to me, which is, let's say, for example, you got a really seriously highly evolved soul. And that soul doesn't come to the earth plane all that much. You might see where I'm going. You don't come to the earth plane all that much. So he's like, you know what, when I come, I want my contribution to be more expansive. I want to get like the most bang for my buck while I'm on the earth plane. So therefore, I'm going to take something upon myself in service to humanity and in service to other souls to benefit them. So in a case like that, a Brandon Lee, when deciding to come back to the earth plane, as infrequently as he does, he decides, you know what, I'm going to pop in, I'll pop out. Let me do something big in service to humanity. What was his contribution? It wasn't necessarily to bring awareness to the fact that there could be accidents happening on set that results in the unaliving of another person. No. It's where he's such a highly evolved soul, and he said, you know what, I'm going to come into this incarnation, and I'm going to allow this other soul, this other person that I'm involved with this happening, because they're responsible for the firearm. I'm going to come in and I'm going to allow that soul to work through some karmic shit on a slightly more elevated and advanced pace. It's kind of like pressing fast forward on your TV. You want to get to the end already. So maybe in a case like this soul of Brandon Lee, he came to the earth plane, or when he was getting ready to come to the earth plane, and he sees that this other soul, the person that's going to be responsible for his unaliving, the conclusion of karmic shit between that soul responsible for unaliving Brandon Lee and another person, that other soul, not the one that, it's getting a little nebulous. Let me use some names here. We got the avatar Brandon Lee. I'm making up a name. Let's say the person that was responsible for him being unalived, his name was Ralph. Ralph had some karmic shit that kept getting kicked down the road, because Ralph had some karmic shit to work out with Rebecca. And Rebecca's soul is like, not now, not now, not now, not now. I don't want to deal with this now. I don't want to create the balance. I don't want to come back and dance with Ralph in this lifetime. But Ralph's soul is getting ready to graduate from the earth plane. As in, Ralph's soul is getting ready to wrap up all of his karmic loops. And he's just got this one bit of outstanding karmic shit that he wants to wrap up before he graduates and he wants to move on. But Rebecca is like, not in this lifetime, not in this lifetime. So the elevated soul that is Brandon Lee sees this and says, I want to be in service to humanity because I don't come here all that much. I don't interact with the energy on earth all that much. So he knew prior to being born in this incarnation that he wasn't going to have a long life. He knew that in advance. No surprises. There are no surprises, because we are all the cosmic creator of the realities that we have here on the earth plane. We not only write our script, we also direct it, and we also act in it. So he knew. But being the cosmic creator of his reality said, not only do I want to act in my film, but I want to write really meaningful characters of other people that are going to come in. So it's not just like it's the Brandon Lee show, it's just my movie and you're all just, side characters in it. I really want to be conscious in the creation of this script that I am writing. And I want to write really, really robust side characters. So being in service to humanity, that's what Brandon Lee did in this case. His soul was able to see, because on the other side you can see everything, was able to see that this character, this avatar named Ralph, was getting ready to wrap up all of his incarnations. He had just one thing left to wrap up. And this other soul was just like, I'm kicking the can down the road. So Brandon Lee's soul, being as elevated as he was, decided to write into his screenplay the event that played out between him and Ralph. So now Ralph doesn't have to sit around and wait for Rebecca to be like, okay, let's deal with our shit. Essentially, he took one for the team because he is now allowing Ralph's soul to just move on and do his own thing and go explore other amazing places and things in the galaxy and in the universe that Brandon Lee has already gotten to see because he's a nomad. So he really did this being of service to humanity because he wanted to get the most bang for his buck, but not in an egocentric, egotistical way, like, look how great I am, I'm gonna do this for him. No! There's no sense of egocentric thoughts in a soul's mind. It was just like, you know what? It's like, imagine this way. Somebody goes to a town and they see a lot of homeless people. And they're from a town where they don't really see a lot of homeless people. But they're like a good person. They want to do good. So they're like, you know what? I see homeless people now and I don't generally see them. I'm going to give a lot of charitable donations to the homeless people that I see because I don't see them all that much. So if I can do it, let me do it. And then they're just going to go back to their town where there is no homeless people, but they feel like they made a contribution to humanity when they were in the time and the place where they could do it. It's the exact same thing here. There's no egocentric intentions on a soul's mind when they choose to take something on. It was like, you know what? I don't come here all that often. I'm here. Let me help a fellow soul out. So now that soul, that character I named Ralph, he gets to move on. He gets to see other incredible things. That's what was playing out in a case like this. Because again, the soul of Brandon Lee is a nomad. So this was not a case of an accumulation of karmic shit that these two souls will now have to go on to work on in some future time and in some future landscape. It's where one soul literally took it upon themselves to come in and help another soul out, which I thought was remarkable. So this got me thinking, what does Brandon Lee think about all of this? Because it's not shown to me that there was any sense of egoism on its part. It was just like, I'm going to help, another soul out. What does Brandon Lee's energy think about this? And it was shown to me that Brandon Lee's soul has no attachment to it. None whatsoever. Not to the outcome of the case, of if somebody was held responsible and what happened to them. Not to the soul lesson that the other soul was going to get, because there was no soul lesson to be had. It was literally helping another soul out to wrap up some karmic shit, to take one for the team, so to say. He has no level of attachment to it whatsoever, because the Earth plane is no more his home than Pluto is ours. So the happenings here on Earth are really of no concern to him. Now that concludes the energy reading on Brandon Lee. I hope that you have enjoyed it, perhaps found it to be insightful or thought-provoking, or maybe introduce some concepts to you that you are not familiar with, and maybe now you are going to be familiar and excited in learning about it. And I remind you to please take what resonates and to leave the rest behind. And as always, and until next time, this is your reminder to stay in the high vibration.